Hey, Vinny Malkus Outdoors. I wanted to do a video talking about some of the drama that's going on in fishing. I'm not really into that, but I just have some personal information about some of the things that are going on. And then I wanted to review a bait, one that I picked up in Arizona. It's been out for a while, but it was something, it's not, I wouldn't say unique enough, but it's just in a weird niche that I really enjoy it and I think has a lot of applications. But first, let's talk about I watch just like everybody else on YouTube a lot of videos, and you got this little beef, I guess, with Lonkers TV and Ben Milliken, which Rob Turkle is the guy that runs Lonkers TV, and I actually have met him. I wouldn't say I'm like friends or anything. I've met him and talked with him, hung out with him a little bit on when he's on the NPFL, and actually I really like the guy. Super down to earth, and I mean, being a veteran myself from a different branch, Marine Corps, but I totally related to the dude from just my interactions with him. I understand his personality and stuff. He's a great guy, but for some people that aren't used to that type of, especially on the more combat arms part of the military or the Marine Corps, where that very abrasive or very straightforward type of personality and the sense of humor, then you might get the wrong gist of him. But in general, he's, from my perspective, an awesome dude, and I believe he has integrity. And I did enjoy my time being able to chat with them and hang out with them a little bit, and then see him on the tour. Now, Ben, I don't know. I just see him on his videos. I think he's also a pretty straightforward dude, and I enjoy watching him. I think he is generally passionate about fishing. I think he's an honest guy. I think he's one of those dudes he's at the point where he doesn't have to kowtow to anybody. He just tells you his opinion, which is awesome, and I like it. So I have no beef with either one of these dudes. But they keep bashing at each other over their products or whatnot, which granted, hey, I'll say Guggen's hard baits, they suck, all right, in my opinion. Their soft baits are great. Who can argue with the Bandito bug? That thing is awesome. And then on the other side of things, 6 Sense hard baits, to me, they're okay. I'm not like a big 6 Sense fan, but their swim bait side of things and some of their soft plastics they've been coming out with are pretty awesome. What do they call it? The Panorama or something like that. The one that looks like a shad, that's pretty cool. So they both got their own thing. It's just kind of like going at each other for, I don't know why. It's just, there's all kinds of drama in the fishing industry for some reason over the last couple of years. And it's kind of disheartening. I hate it. I wish we could just, I like talking more about fishing. Like where are we going? What are they hitting on? And when all that jazz, or we'll just see what this guy, the typical fishing stuff, but this is where we're at. I will say this. Okay. So, to bash both of them a little bit, but in good heartedness. I would never, if I'd say this in front of their face and it'd be funny, in my opinion. I've never met Ben Milliken, but I'd still tell him, okay, so let's go with Lunkers, the Guggen Squad, Bass Mafia, whatever, the Bass Mafia swim bait, with I guess, developed with Chris Haldane, who seems like a cool dude. I've met him. I don't really have any real conversations with him. I don't know. He wouldn't remember me from Adam. Because when I was going up in the West, it was a little bit, I don't think I ever saw him. Because I was more, I don't look that old, but I was young then. I was like 16 to 18, when like the Aaron Martins and John Murray's and Brett Hite and Skeet Reese and all of them were really cutting their teeth that way. So I think I might have been around before him, and then I kind of went off and did other things in the military as opposed to bass fishing. But that there's no doubt that swim bait looks like the Megabass Mag Draft. I hate to say it. I will say this: there is a couple of little tweaks and redesigns, but it's very close to that bait. You put them up together, you just look at the design is obviously very close. Which, you can, I don't know. I'm not saying they directly copied it, but the design itself, the exterior look in scheme of it is definitely very close. Now, what I've seen from what they were showing, some of the internals is where it's different. So I'll give them credit for that. That's pretty cool. And I know that they probably spent a lot of time developing that and then manufacturing, making sure that the manufacturing process is good too. So, I mean, people could bash him on that. The aesthetic of it and the outside appearance does look like the Mag Draft, but I believe the internals, some of the weighting system thing that they had in there, well, I think I've only, tangentially watched it. It is different. But obviously they were inspired by the Mag Draft. Now, okay, let's go over to Ben Milliken's stuff. So they got the Hangover swim bait, which I was looking at that, and I've watched him quite some time. And it is a derivative of another swim bait too. So you can't just beat up on Turkla about that, about their whatever Bass Mafia. I can't remember what they call theirs, but the Mag Draft knockoff or whatever. It's not. I mean, it looks a lot like it, but if you look at the Hangover and the way it operates and whatnot, the main design there is based off a 316 company lure, which if you're familiar with 316, they came from California and they moved out to Texas. And that guy has an amazing story about becoming a Christian and really starting his company up. But he developed these baits, these swim baits that were doing, like the Mission Fish is one of them. And I can't remember what this one they called it is pretty much what the Hangover is. The Hangover's got a little slightly different here and there, but you can tell that it's kind of based off of that bait. And in fact, Ben had been throwing that bait quite often on his show, the 316 version of it. Or 360. I'm not saying they're knocking them off. I'm saying they're inspired by these baits. And you can tell by the design, and you can see, especially the outside aesthetic of the baits, that the either one of them is inspired by the baits that they are really using. And when it comes to Lonkers and Bass Mafia, Chris Zaldane was on that team developing that, so he was with Megabass and was really throwing that. It tied in with that Mag Draft thing. On the other side, Ben had been throwing that 316 swim bait. They had in that same swim bait too, they had a top hook version, so you'd go through the front of the bait. I have one. I just don't want to go digging through and finding it. Anyway, the line goes through, and then you can go back up and put the top hook on, or you can just go through the bottom. And they came in a couple different sizes because he started making a 6-inch version, and then he has the 8. I believe that's what it is. It's been a while since I've thrown it, but I have a few of them laying around. Anyway, so that's what his are based. So they both can beat each other up. Now the factory stuff on the hard baits, yeah, a lot of people get their stuff from China, and you can go and you can look it up and see. You can see some of these similar designs, even some of the stuff that you'd think is pretty high quality from some of these other companies. You can look at where they're manufactured, and in fact, if you had the purchasing power to go out there, you could form your own brand and kind of get something very similar to, or maybe even the same as some of these other baits, or some of these baits that you see on the rack. But anyway, let's get off of that, because that's enough crap, and it's just throwing crap at each other. This is the bait that I found, and I think I showed it to you guys last time. I don't do that many videos anymore until I get to a spot where I'm going to be doing a lot more fishing. But I did pick these guys up when I was out in Arizona, and I thought they were pretty fascinating. And we're all familiar with the Zako, particularly the 4-inch version, which everybody throws it on a chatterbait and whatnot. Well, this is the 3-inch version. And you're thinking, well, what's 1 inch, right? Well, that's what she said. But anyway, 1 inch right there this is the exact profile of about a yearling threadfin shad. And size and the profile. And of course, this dang thing over here likes to pop on the water, make a bunch of noise while I'm doing any of it. It doesn't matter what time of day I do one of these. This rabbit over here does that. But anyway, this is the exact profile. What is fascinating by this, and well, not only some of the colors, but yeah, the profile, the size, the flexibility of this bait, this Yamamoto bait, which I've been kind of critical of Yamamoto because they got rid of one of my favorite baits, the Senshou, the Water Dog one, which I've just stocked up a bunch of them. That's all I've done. But this bait here, you could use on that mini chatterbait that they came out with, which I think a lot of guys probably are, to downsize that whole presentation. But to be honest, for me, I like this bait as a finesse bait, as a drop. Well, I guess that would be, but as a spinning rod drop shot bait, weightless in the fall, for you get those shad that are about that size that are spawning. In the spring or in that early summer, when you have, especially places where there's like stripers, we get they're going up, or I said, when did I say fall? Not when they're, my bad. Anyway, in the fall when they're gathering up and they're kind of dying off, you have this size of shad. In the spring when the shad come up and they're spawning, you also have this. This is the size of a threadfin, like a mature threadfin shad. And I mean, they can get a little bit bigger, but in a lot of places you have this year class of shad. And anyway, sorry. You have this year class of shad, and it is good to throw something that matches the hatch. Well, anyway, so drop shotting this thing, weightless. Weightless would be killer because a lot of the guys are afraid to throw something this small weightless. With a spinning rod, you can do that, and I have done that in the past, but with other shad looking baits, and it's really effective. Also split shotting this, and one of the reasons I do that, you can do that with the like a drop shot nose hook or whatever, but this thing has a cavity, and if you're familiar with the old school split shotting back in the day with these little baits throwing little tiny offset hooks, you could put that in this deal and run it on a little 1/8 bullet weight or split shot. And sorry, this thing keeps making a bunch of noise. Anyway, and use this drag along the bottom, get it pop up and die. I mean, dude, I've won tournaments off doing stuff like that, the old split shot. And sometimes it outperforms on certain lakes. I got a lake in particular where I've won a tournament. And yeah, the drop shotting is primarily the technique that usually gets it done on that lake. But I've done it multiple times where I've drop shot at a limit, go back over it with some of these areas with a split shot rig, and come back at them and just call everything. Just because it's something different, right? People have kind of lost that that technique. They've abandoned it for other things. So anyway, this bait here, it comes in a variety of the Yamamoto colors. It is quite expensive for really what you're buying, a piece of plastic, a 3-inch piece of plastic, but it seems cool. I like it. Yeah, there's probably other baits that you can also throw that might be, I don't know, a little more effective at certain times, but in general, it seems compelling. It's an interesting bait. I'm going to spend a little more time on the water with it and get a little more situational awareness about how it works and when to throw it or whatnot. But I have some ideas, like I just told you, and some ideas how to throw it. And particularly around where I'm at right now, drop shot for sure. Some of these long gravelly points and some of these lakes here too, that, like I said, that split shot ought to be killer. And then the small chatterbait, or here's the other one, the small swim jig. Just throwing that out there. Or just on a 1/4 ounce jig head. Yeah, those things are going to be effective, especially this time of year. Oh, the other thing I was going to talk about, but maybe we'll do different videos, these winter baits, because this is my time of year. I love this time of year when it's cold and nobody else wants to be out, because some of my favorite baits are super effective this time of year. But we'll get into that another time. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Peace.